Hey everybody, welcome to episode 121. Ben finally returns back from his long ass vacation. It seemed like it was forever. We haven't talked in forever, so we had a lot to catch up on. Ben talks about what he is focusing on in the latest iteration of We Hack Health and his crew there, and expanding his options. We also get into some sleep studies, how to maximize sleep, the reasons why you need sleep, by the way. It should be pretty clear, but we go through that, supplementation if necessary. As well as different techniques and habits that you can form in order to get better sleep. We also discuss longevity impacts. What can you do to live longer? Aside from, obviously exercise resistance training, caloric restriction, but we also get into some supplementation that has some new data and research that's out there, as well as some newer data that kind of disproves some older theories that were thought on longevity. So tune into this episode. It's a good one. We'll catch up soon, and it's good to have Ben back finally after all these years. Welcome back, Ben. Tune in this episode.
You know that there has had to have been some sacrifice, whether it's time or nutrition or whatever it is.
Recording myself talking about having a relationship with my chest.
I'm Ben Canning.
I'm Dave Kennedy.
And this is Hacking Health Podcast. Yo, what's going on, everybody? Welcome to episode 121. Dave and I have just caught up because he feels like I was away for absolutely forever when it was actually only 5 days, but I've been told that I'm never allowed to take 5 days away again. So here we are.
Listen, okay, if it was 5 days and you were, Skyping me every day or Zooming me every day, we could communicate and see each other. That'd be different. But you actually took a vacation and I wasn't able to talk to you as much as I would like to every day. So, and I felt like, we were just distant for those 5 days. So
we were distant, but we were obviously logistically closer than we ever are.
Right. Literally, it's an hour plane ride between us, and we were much further apart than any time. But
no more vacations. That's fine.
I missed you.
Yeah, I missed you too. Yeah. But I'll consult you first next time if I book, and then we'll have scheduled
vacation as well, so we can vacation together, so we don't feel so distant.
And we'll schedule regular Zoom calls every other hour, something like that, so we can keep up with it. That's fair.
Yeah,
okay, cool,
maybe every hour would be good, just for 10 minutes. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, apart from missing me, how was your week? What's going on?
So actually, things have been somewhat not great on my end as far as sleep. The past month, which is the topic of today's surprise, is
spoiler alert right away. We don't usually tell them for 20 minutes.
Coming out right with it. No, my sleep has been really bad for the past month or so, and I haven't been able to figure out why. The good news is, what's great about what we do here at Hacking Your Health is it's all about obviously learning your body, learning yourself. Learning what's going on and things that change or things that you're not getting from a supplementation perspective or things you need to do differently to improve yourself. And I think I've been able to figure it out. And I had an amazing amount of sleep yesterday. It was 6.5 hours of solid sleep. I didn't have to go up and pee 17 times. It was really a solid sleep. So other than that, things have been actually going really good. My training has been going good. My tennis elbow has been back to normal. So I'm training at a high intensity again. My doctor yesterday that I met with about my sleep issues told me I should probably chill a little bit on the training as much as I'm doing. I don't agree with her at all. So
you'll never be back. You're looking for a new doctor.
Yeah. So
this is stupid advice on getting a new doctor.
Yeah. I'm like, if she would have told me hey, you need to work out twice as much, I'm like, okay, you're my doctor. Okay. But no, it's just a season, obviously. But it was good to have, both that, I use specialized doctors on longevity and health. And I also have a PCP that it's funny. So if you listen to previous podcasts, maybe about a year or two ago, I had a doctor that I was kind of teaching the TRT stuff too, because they don't know this stuff in the medical field, right? Especially if they've been a doctor for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, they're not up to speed on the latest research, the impacts of testosterone as we age and all those other things. And my doctor's always been super supportive of my regimen when I'm doing, and making sure that I'm doing it healthy and everything else. But it was more of a lessons learned of me teaching him. This guy runs an entire part of a clinic, massive organization, health hospital, and I'm teaching this guy, the latest. And he ended up running an entire hospital, so he doesn't take as much patients anymore. And he pawned me off to somebody else. And I have a new doctor, and she's awesome. She is like up on, young, up on the latest research, like super supportive of what I'm doing, super big into fitness and health and, the impacts that it has on your body versus kind of the reactiveness that we know. So she's great. And it was good as like, I was able to schedule, like I finally had enough on the sleep stuff and I scheduled a virtual visit with her yesterday. And within a day I got in and was able to, go through my blood work with her and everything else and really kind of diagnose what the issues were. And it turned out to be an iron deficiency, which I'll get into the whole sleep thing. But, it's really cool to be able to have folks in your corner that you trust, that are smart, that are up to speed on the latest stuff and are willing to help you kind of in a drop of a dime. So that was really cool. But other than that, I'm actually doing really well around the holiday time frames, not a lot of travel. Things are kind of winding down, just getting caught up with everything that I should have been doing. Yeah, man, my daughter had a orchestra concert yesterday and she had 2 solos. She was in the front chair violin, had 2 solos. And even with the lack of sleep in the past month or so, I was able to stay awake and be super proud of her. So it was good. So everything else is going really good. How about you? Other than, completely ditching me while you're on vacation. But other than that, like, how's everything else going?
Fine. Everything's going fine. No, everything's good on this end. I lost 8 pounds while being in New York for 5 days. I genuinely left and I was like, on the last day chatting to Matt, and I was like, I'm definitely going to come back and be like 10 pounds heavier, but I was 8 pounds lighter. So I'm going to say the first 9 days of a cut, including 5 days in New York, was definitely a success. New York was awesome, as always. I felt like I was a bit of a tour guide for everybody, which was cool. Ate loads of great food, just hung out, not really. I went into it in the mindset of like, no, I'm going to sort of like track my food and be on top of everything. And then I got there and I was like, fuck all this. It's not that often that I get to just hang out in a normal situation with Matt and Sarah and stuff like that. So we just chilled the entire time. So New York. And yeah, I absolutely enjoyed myself. Plenty of good food. But as I said, plenty of steps as well that probably balance things out. But feel good to be back. And while I love traveling as much as I do, I also love fucking sitting here and doing work in my office because it's just not the same when you're away. I did still work while I was away. I did a couple of hours work every morning to make sure everything was okay and everybody had their check-ins back on time and stuff like that. But there's nothing like being in my own space and actually catching up because I feel like you just don't have the same like capacity for work whenever you're on the move. So it feels good to get back into this today. And yeah, no other real update. I'm sort of doing the daily vlogs, which will go live. This is going to go live next Tuesday. So yesterday, if you're listening to this today, when it goes live on Tuesday, the daily vlogs go live yesterday on Monday. So I've sort of been recording the journey as to what's been going on with the cut and things like that, which is cool. I also have a bit of an announcement, and I haven't told you this yet, I don't think.
What?
Well, I might have, but I don't. I'm making it as an official announcement from now. So I'm not going to take any more clients on from the end of this year. Me personally. So the goal with this is it's time to build out the team and give other people opportunities and me to sort of coach them to the place that they need to be to coach at the level that I want them to be. I've spent the past probably 3 or 4 months put people in different places with different roles and responsibilities and obviously different experts. So the team is growing and I want to sort of give them their place in terms of coaching as a whole. So from the 31st of December, everybody who's in at this stage is in. That's good. That's the agreement. I will coach them forever if that's what they want. But from the 31st of December this year, I will not be taking any more one-to-one clients. So if you listen to this and you're like, oh shit, I've been waiting for a sign. This is your sign. You have until the end of this year. And then I'm not taking any more one-to-one clients on.
She's telling me I'm not going to be your client anymore?
No, you're in. Don't worry. You have a lifetime pass. But yeah, though, it's just a decision to sort of allow me to essentially make what we're doing here at We Hack Health on the whole, not just within the business and within the coaching and within clients, but like what we're actually doing here with the podcast and other bits and pieces. It'll give me time, buy myself back time to make that better for everybody involved. And obviously the last podcast that we recorded, we talked about the logistics in terms of setting up the daily games, the emails, the webinars and stuff like that to make sure that we give more value across the board. One big thing I want to focus on next year is more public speaking, so to give me time to do that as well and essentially not have to worry as much whenever I'm traveling that I'm like, oh shit, I need to get back to this person, get back to that person, because I'll have the team there to do that. So allow me a little bit more freedom to grow and expand things on the other side, and then ultimately, as the overall goal is to help more people and change the narrative of the entire industry. So that's going on as well. I realize I'm about to say, and that's it. I realize that's a huge deal, and that's it.
That's awesome, man.
I also slept for 11 hours and 7 minutes last night, not to rub it in because I know your sleep's been sucky, but I want to say I definitely have nailed it in terms of sleep last night.
That's messed up. That's messed up that you would actually say that, to me, but that's silly. That's awesome, man. Well, I mean, dude, it's been cool to see, your overarching success with all this and the expansion, and you already are building a great team with, Sean and Travis and everybody else that you brought aboard. Just good folks that, are already extremely smart in what they do, and just makes perfect sense. So really excited to see where you take it, dude. Of course.
Yeah, it'll be good. I guess we'll move into the conversation around sleep, and I'll start because I got 11 hours sleep last night, and I will say I woke up and felt like a fucking brand new human. Now, the caveat that is, I obviously traveled. I left New York on Monday at like 6 p.m. their time and arrived home at 4 a.m. my time. Got a bit of a nap whenever I got home, like 2 hours. So I don't necessarily know that this is a good example of how to sleep, but got a bit of a nap yesterday morning whenever I got back, and then sort of wrapped a couple of things up. Obviously hadn't seen Harper, so hung out with her, and then pretty much whenever she went to bed, I went to bed. And I woke up. I did wake up at midnight, and I was like, fuck, this is it. Like, I'm awake now, but then I went straight back over to sleep. And then got up this morning and, like I said, had 11 hours sleep. Now, I did use melatonin, and I know we have our own thoughts and views on melatonin, but I thought, given the circumstances, to sort of get myself back to normal, it was definitely worth doing. And obviously, we can't get it over here, so I brought some back, obviously, from being away. So
you can't buy melatonin?
No.
Oh, I guess I didn't realize that. That's crazy.
No, I know.
Yeah.
So a bit of import-export in terms of the melatonin. Yeah. And I now have a supply of it. But it's good to have that sort of reset. And I think I maybe mentioned this last time, or I've recorded it in the vlog. I think the amount of words that I'm saying and the amount of talking that I'm doing in the directions of either to you or clients or on the vlog is blurring into one. But I use that time shifter app for travel. Basically, it's like to beat jet lag. So it sets you up a couple of days before your travel and then sort of monitors it as you go. So it sort of told me when to build in sleep, at what time, when to get up, when to navigate caffeine, when to navigate being outdoors and things like that. So I would say it's beneficial. I'm saying that the time difference between here and there isn't that, like, it isn't that big. So I'll trial it out a little bit more in depth whenever we have the Phoenix event, because that's going to be a shit show in terms of travel. So I'll report back a little bit further, but it definitely was cool just to sort of see, okay, right, this is how I should be managing things to make sure that I'm not totally fucked with jet lag on the other side of it.
Yeah, that makes sense. And that, the melatonin stuff is obviously like hotly contested in I think a lot of areas, but the big thing with melatonin is you want to take it like a couple hours before you go to bed. Usually like an hour, to an hour and a half. That kind of resets your kind of clock to let your body know it's time for bed. And so if you're having issues with like your circadian rhythm, or you're jet lagged or things like that, melatonin is actually a great way to reset your clock very quickly. It's the continued use, and especially for youth, that is the troubling piece, right? So there are studies that show, high dosages of melatonin stunt growth, and some other areas have actually increased issues with sleep or dependence on that for sleep. For adults, usually if you're doing like 2 to 3 grams, it's usually not too bad, especially if you're not using it every single day. It's usually not a big deal. I take melatonin every so often. What's that?
Milligrams. Don't be telling people to take 3 grams of melatonin and not fucking wake up for a week. But no, I think that's that's it. It's the same with everything. Like, you don't want to become dependent on it or reliant on it. And I think I used it a little whenever I was away. I think I took one of the gummies. It was 2.5 milligrams, just to make sure that I could actually get some sleep. Like, I didn't have any super late nights or anything like that, but I just want to make sure I could get adequate sleep whenever I was away. And then I took 5 milligrams last night, about an hour before I went to bed. Now, I didn't necessarily do something next that was conducive to sleep. I played a game of Call of Duty online, but I could definitely feel myself like heavy eyes towards the end of it. So set myself up for sleep in that way, and then it was absolutely fine. I do my one worry with it is if you don't time it correctly, you feel like shit the next morning, like you're super groggy as if you're like still asleep. But it's not something I'm going to use regularly. I'll see tonight to see whether I've actually reset myself or it's just a fluke. But yeah, as with anything, I guess the main topic of this conversation should be how you set yourself up for success with sleep without having to supplement, and then knowing that there are things to supplement whenever it comes to the other side. And anytime I have a conversation with a client, I want them to make sure that there are endless things that you can do that are going to help you get to sleep, that don't cost anything, and it's not supplemented with anything. And then if you still struggle on the other side, we can start to look into other things that will benefit sleep slightly longer term.
Yeah, sleep for me has been an interesting one because my entire life, I've been able to sleep anywhere, anytime, any place. I can fall on the ground and fall and I nail beds or bed of nails. I've actually fallen asleep standing up before. It's never been an issue, right?
I'm sleeping right now.
Yeah, like I took a nap while you were talking. I was just like, but it's interesting when something disrupts sleep, and you're not getting enough sleep. Like sleep is probably fundamentally the most important thing that we can do for our bodies to recover both mentally and physically. It's a way for our body to essentially spend time to replenish, to fix, to regenerate, and to give our bodies a break. And if we're not focused on sleep with training and our day-to-day lives and everything else, things start to fall apart pretty quickly. And I noticed, with this past month, my motivation to train was down. My injuries were up as far as, tennis elbow, just not, feeling lethargic and not having a lot of energy. My brain clarity and fog was definitely coming back a bit. And it was all due to not being able to sleep appropriately. And so what I was having to do is, if I get like 2 or 3 hours of sleep at night because I was having this iron issue, I'd have to take a nap for like an hour during the day just to kind of catch up a little bit, just to give myself a break. But it's just feeling sluggish, the entire time. And it's amazing because I got, 6.5 hours yesterday, which is about what I need. I need about 6.5 hours. 6 to 6.5 hours of sleep a day is good for me. Anything more than that is okay. 7 hours is good. Anything more than that is not good. I get, kind of tired. But with 6.5 hours, the amount of energy that I have today, how good I feel, like everything's back to normal. Like but it's been like a month to feel like this. I'm like, man, like this is how I've always felt, but it's been like a month of just like feeling kind of shitty. It's great to finally be back to a spot to where, I kind of feel like myself again. And it's taken time to get there. And what ended up happening was, for me, I started thinking maybe it's mental, am I being too cautious of being quiet so I don't wake Aaron up at night? Or am I getting like, is it too much stuff going on in my head? But I wasn't really stressed out. I'm actually like de-stressed now at this point. So it's not stress. I'm stressing about not being able to sleep. Is that the issue now? So like all this stuff goes in your head. And then like, well, I'll cut out caffeine after noon. It's never been an issue for me before in the past, but maybe it is now. So I stopped taking caffeine after noon. I stopped eating, carbs at night. I stopped eating at 8 o'clock at night, 8 o'clock and above, then 7 o'clock and above, just to see if it was food. Like I tried everything to figure out what the F was going on. I knocked out most of my like supplements, like like someone prescribed like Azemabine and, telmisartan and like all these other things that are like good for like balancing cholesterol and things like that. I knocked those out just, to see if it was those, it was this trial and error to kind of figure out what was going on. And at the end of the day, I've been very transparent about this, but I had stomach surgery a while ago because I have a hiatal hernia. I was causing all this acid reflux into my chest and my esophagus and burning through my esophagus and all this other stuff. So they had to basically do stomach surgery via bypass. And so I have a very, very big issue with absorbing iron. And I have supplements that I take in the morning and in the night that are supposed to have a decent amount of iron, but it just wasn't enough. And it was over time reducing my ferritin levels, my iron levels in my body. And when I got my blood work done, I was close to being anemic and didn't realize it. And if you look at the symptoms of anemia, it's tired and sluggishness. It's restless leg syndrome, which is exactly what I had. Inability to sleep and insomnia. It's like all these things that I was going through. I'm like, first of all, if you Google like, all the symptoms that you're feeling, it's like, hey, you're dying of a heart attack or cancer, and then you kind of dive down and you're like, hey, okay, it's anemia or close to being anemic. And so what I didn't realize though, because I started taking iron supplements and I still was having shit sleep, is that it takes our bodies, anywhere between 3 to 4 weeks to actually replenish your ferritin levels in your blood. And so, I just started getting the replenishment now, about a week ago. So I'm still, 3 weeks before I'm back to normal levels, essentially. So I have to kind of deal with that. But again, yesterday I got good sleep, but it's the trial and error of what works for you. And if there's a problem, homing in and knocking things out that it might be, right? It's trial and error. Is it mental? And if it's mental, what does that mean? One of the things that actually helped me when I was going through this is a magnesium bath. A friend, Jason Vest, our COO over at Binary, CTO over at Binary, he put me onto this, and it's just this bag of magnesium of salt, and you throw it into your bath. And I just took a really hot bath. It's got to be almost like scalding hot, like 100 degrees, 104 degrees, and which is fine for me. I like it as hot as it can go. Definitely not cold plunge. And
well, speaking of hot baths, I did order a cold plunge, so stand by for some footage of that.
All right, I'm leaving this channel. This podcast is now done. It's over. But I did a magnesium bath at night, and that also helped relax me, kind of calm me down. And I also felt like I had really good sleep when I do those as well. So, it's just trying to figure out, what works for you in your program. But you really need to kind of ensure that you're getting, on average, good sleep across the board. And that's, some people need 6 hours, some people need 5.5 hours. I would say it's kind of on the lower end, but most people need about 6 to 8 hours of sleep on a daily basis, to really kind of recover and do what you're doing. And it's making sure you stay consistent with those regimens, you stay consistent with, that type of sleep so that your body has the ability to recover, or you're going to start to break down in a number of areas, brain function, your cognitive functionality, everything else. And you can take as many supplements as you want to, fish oils and everything else, and that's going to help, but it's not going to fix, the results for sleep. Sleep is some of the most important things that literally the staple thing that you can do to improve your health today is getting good sleep. No alcohol at night, that wrecks your sleep. If you actually look at, REM sleep and how you sleep, if you have something like a Whoop band and you look at, the hours that you drink and the hours that you don't, your recovery is going to be total shit on alcohol, because it just wreaks havoc in your body, especially how you sleep. And same thing for like late night Taco Bell runs, definitely impacts my sleep. So I've been trying to cut back on those a little bit, but
that was the first port of call whenever you were looking at things you could affect it. But I think that's
Taco Bell. But that's an chili yesterday, by the way. So it's so good.
Good. Yeah. But I think that's important. You looked at all the stuff and all the variables, had started taking things out or adding things in, and sort of taking things right back to basics in terms of what you can do before looking at supplements that could potentially improve your sleep, versus just actually going in straight to supplements, because I don't think that solves the problem. The thing about alcohol, and a lot of people potentially who smoke weed will say it helps them sleep, and it's like it sedates you, so you'll be passed out, but you don't actually get the sleep cycles. So yes, okay, you may be quote unquote asleep, but you don't go through the same sleep cycles, and that's why you don't get the sort of restorative sleep that is needed. And I definitely think the way I've woke up and felt this morning, like I said, I felt absolutely brand new, and it sort of gave me the reminder of like, it's not something that I would say that I struggle with, but I probably don't optimize my sleep as much as possible. And it's definitely something I'm going to work on over the next couple of months, because I definitely, like this morning, I felt completely brand new. So putting together sort of like a little bit more boundaries around the stuff that I do in the evening, and then what it looks like in terms of like if I do need a supplement or whatever. I do know that it's something that Matt focuses heavily on. Like, you'll not get Matt on the phone after like 8:30 at night, because he starts his sleep routine, and he's a sleep tea and sleep supplements and whatever else, and he usually has pretty decent sleep. And I was like, while I don't struggle, it probably could be better. So sort of reminding me this morning that I could start to look at that and actually make it better slightly longer term, because as you said, it's potentially the best thing that we can do from an everything standpoint. You'll recover better, you'll be able to think better, your sessions will be better, you'll digest food better. Like, you're just going to run you're at that little bit more optimally whenever you get significant sleep.
Yeah, the importance, I think, that I started realizing is that when you look at my recovery scores, from like Whoop or any other thing, and you can tell how you feel too. Like I woke up this morning at like 6:45, and normally I'm like, I gotta get up, like so tired. I woke up finally because I finally had some sleep. I'm like, oh my God, it's 6:45. Let's go. Let's roll. Let's get the pre-workout going and everything else, and let's roll. Like I'm ready to go hit Orange Theory up, and I murdered it. And I was chasing the fake person again next to me. That was trying to beat me. The whole thing came back together today. So it's definitely a difference in how you feel, your positivity, your stress levels, everything, cortisol. It impacts so many different areas of your body in a negative effect without sleep. And so for me, sleep really has become one of the things that I really try to focus on. In fact, when I'm going out with friends, like I actually look at what do I have going on tomorrow, and do I have the ability to still get my 6.5 or 7 hours, and when do I need to go home so like if it's 10 o'clock, I'm coming home. Like I went out to a date night with Aaron and a couple of our really close friends, and we went to it's kind of this dive bar, and got some food there, and it was like 9:30 at night. And I'm like, all right,
gotta
see you guys
go.
later. Let's go.
Bye.
I got home at 10 o'clock. I was in bed by 10:30, got a good night's sleep, and went and did a whole leg session at the next day. So it's those type of prioritizations that you kind of have to think about, especially as we get older. That makes a big difference in almost every aspect of your life, and that includes your job, that includes your life at home. I was coming home yesterday. I was just like I literally get home and I have to go to the orchestra concert, and I'm on the couch. I'm just lethargic. I'm tired. I just want to go to bed. And good luck if I'm even be able to fall asleep. Let alone anything else. And if I try to take a nap right now, it means I'm not going to bed the rest of the night. So it's like all these different dilemmas. But as soon as we got home at like, I don't know, 9 o'clock. I got a couple emails out really quick. Watched an episode of Suits with Aaron, and then I was in bed. And I was out until the next morning. And it's those type of situations I think that make a big difference in health. And yes, there are different techniques to fall asleep. There's 1,000 different ways that people have figured out to fall asleep. You kind of have to figure out what works best for you. One of the things that I have that I really enjoy is a cooling bed that helps me kind of hit my temperature the right way throughout the night. And so I have it's called I think it's called the Uller system. There's a few of them out there. I would definitely do 8 sleep if I could, but they don't have the right mattress size because I have a split bed. Because Aaron likes it upright and I don't. So they don't have the right mattress size to go over. But it basically heats and cools your bed to a certain temperature, but you can change it throughout the night. And what I do is at night when I get in, it's hot, or not hot, it's warm. So I'm not getting into a cold bed, right? And then shortly it starts to decrease in temperature, and then by 1 o'clock, by 12 o'clock at night, 1 o'clock in the morning, it's at a pretty low temperature, like around 66, 67 degrees. Which I find is being pretty good to where I don't wake up cold, but I'm cold enough to where my body's in a deep sleep. And then usually around like 3 or 4 o'clock, it starts to gradually increase the temperature. And then around 5 or 6 o'clock, it's at a temperature where, it's warm. And then it from there wakes me up around 6:45 in the morning. I don't even have an alarm clock. The heat wakes me up in the morning because of the temperature. So I kind of have a natural cooling and a natural warming period that has really kind of optimized my sleep. That's one technique that has worked for me. That may not work for everybody else, but it definitely has improved my recovery scores. And I've had much longer, deeper REM sleep, as I've gone along and done that one. So those are great. There is some medicine that you can get prescribed if you're really struggling. It's called trazodone. That's actually probably one of the number one ones that I'd ever recommend other than anything else. It doesn't jack up your sleep impact. It doesn't jack up your sleep patterns. Like if you like Ambien and those types of things, it's not good for you long term. But trazodone is a really good one that doesn't mess up, your sleep cycle. I take like 2 of those, and I start to notice that my speech starts to slur a little bit. I'm like, but even with that, I couldn't sleep. I'd be wrecked and and I can't fall asleep. I'm like, this sucks. But trazodone's a good one if you really have to. It's obviously a prescription, but it's one that you could do if you want to actually fall asleep pretty decently, and you need that as a kicker. But I wouldn't recommend that, everyday use.
Yeah, the one sleep supplement that I used before was the Fade Out by Red Calm One. And again, I don't know whether I can legally get it over here, but it's a sort of it's a funny one because it's that same sort of thing. Like your speech just starts to go, but I find that there's a very fine, a small window that if I'm not in bed and don't go to sleep, then I'm not going to get to sleep. It's almost like the opposite effect on the other side of it because my heart starts to really race. I mean, I'm not recommending that by any stretch of imagination because if you miss that window, then you're absolutely screwed. But it was one that used to work. But I think if we take it right back to things that you can do that aren't a supplement or taking something or don't cost anything, and just actually your sort of sleep hygiene as a whole, and what you can do to sort of set yourself up for better sleep, for better success. The temperature one that you mentioned there is definitely an important one. I'm a fan of my bed being cold whenever I get in. I definitely have looked at the 8 sleep a lot, and I potentially will get myself one. But in terms of the temperature, you want to have a cold room. You want your body temperature to be as cold as possible. So probably one of the benefits that you find from having a hot bath is your body will actually start to cool itself down from the inside out. So your body will be like, oh my God, I'm so fucking hot, because you've just been in the bath, and it'll start to try like dump the heat as much as possible. I think it dumps the heat from your palms, your hands, and the soles of your feet and your forehead from memory. So it will cool your body down, which is obviously optimal for whenever you're getting to sleep. Obviously, as dark a room as physically possible. A couple of the team last week were recommending eye masks. I don't like an eye mask because I feel like I'm blind. I don't like the restriction around my head. I just like my room to be dark on a whole. Obviously, the noise level in the room is important as well. I know a lot of people say that they rely on like the TV as a background, or like some sort of white noise or whatever, which I have used in the past. But obviously, if it can be as quiet as possible. That is optimal. The time of food is, to me, it's a bit of a controversial one. There are times that I like to sort of have a carb heavy meal about an hour before bed, because I know it will sort of set me up for a better night's sleep. But I know there obviously is the argument to that in terms of digestion on the whole, and what quality of your sleep you're getting, et cetera, et cetera. So again, that's probably one that you have to play about with. But that would be something that I tend to recommend people to try out first if they're struggling with sleep. One of the big ones is obviously like shit like this, like lights and screens. I know people, and I'm definitely that person. And tonight's the night that I have the weekly call, so I'll be on that call until 9 p.m. if not later. But I try and avoid screens as much as possible, at least an hour out from going to bed, and sort of dim the lights slightly in the house, because obviously that'll sort of set the tone before actually getting off and going to sleep. So that plays a big part in it as well. What you were saying about the mind racing one, the one thing that I try and do before I shut everything down here is like get all of the stuff that I need to do out of my head. So I'll just write a list. Sometimes the list won't make sense, but I try and basically write a list of the stuff that I need to do the next day. So I'm not like in bed going, oh shit, I need to do this tomorrow. I'll remember. And then 100 times out of 100, you never remember those things. And I don't want to then get my phone out, because then I'm on the screen, and then I want to leave the note in it. So screen time is obviously a big one. And then obviously the lights around your house. Now, I guess in a bit of a contradictory fashion to the noise level one, something I used for a while was the what's the name of the app? Oak. The Oak meditation app. They have like a sleep section one, and basically like it's a breathwork / meditation / guided get yourself to sleep program. I think total time of it's 30 minutes, and they have to like choose your ambient background noise of like waterfall or rainforest or thunderstorm or whatever the thing is. And then basically there's like a guided breath work that talks you through it, which I definitely find hugely beneficial. So if I'm going to bed like a little bit hyped, I know that'll sort of bring me back down to the level that I need to go to sleep. So it's guided breath work. It just basically takes you through a short breath work like session, and then it's basically just focusing on where you can feel your breath, whether that's like coming out of your nose or in your chest or whatever. And there's always that sort of reminder to bring yourself to the breath. So if you're like starting to think about, oh, did I hit my protein goal today, and your thoughts are away off somewhere else, it'll bring you back to it. And the idea is obviously that you're asleep by the end of it. And again, 99 times out of 100, I was asleep before the end of it. So that's a good one to try out as well. For people who are sort of, I guess, in their own heads whenever it's time to go to sleep.
Yeah, the thing that I found most effective for me is making sure I carve out time for sleeping.
Yeah.
Like it's not staying up late on video games. It's not, watching TV until 11, 12 o'clock at night. It's having a set bedtime. Mm-hmm. And that has been the most effective strategy. So I'm in bed usually by 10 or 10:30 at the latest, and I am sleeping by 11. And that is my goal, right? And then I'm usually up by like 6 or 6:45.
I would caveat by saying, and I actually had this conversation with Adam way back at the start, because he really struggled with sleep. I was like, give yourself a window for being in bed or being asleep, like a 2-hour window, and not like I need to be in bed and asleep by 9 o'clock, because that gives you that additional pressure, because you're in bed and you're like, right, I need to go to sleep, and then you're like, well, if I don't go to sleep now, I'm only going to get this amount, and you're really like overthinking things. It's like, if you have a 90-minute to 2-hour window that you need to be in bed and be asleep by, it's less pressure on your end versus the like regimented, okay, I need to be asleep by this time, because it'll change. And I would say, to sort of on top of that, the biggest thing that you can do to control your days and your sleep schedule is your time that you wake up. it's the most important thing that will basically, it has a knock-on effect on pretty much how your body operates throughout the rest of the day. So if you can keep that consistent, regardless of your sleep the night before, if you go to bed slightly later, I would still recommend getting up at the same time, because it's going to be the thing that's most consistent in terms of how the rest of your days look, in terms of whenever you release the certain things you need to release throughout the day to then set yourself up for sleep later that day.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. I mean, for me, I'm a little bit more YOLO on that, I guess, in the sense that I try to be in bed by like 10 or 10:30, right? My goal though is to be sleeping by 11. But if I'm missing it, it's not like I'm super upset or hurting or anything like that. But I guess I need a decent amount of sleep. And there are times where I choose, like, listen, it's Friday. I'm going to be lifting tomorrow. I can sleep in tomorrow. So I'm going to go to bed late. I'm going to go to bed at midnight or 1, right? And I'm going to have a couple glasses of wine, or, that's another thing I've been getting into lately is wine again, for some reason. I'm liking wine again. I don't know. I don't do that often though, which is great. So, usually just for like a nice steak dinner or something like that, I'll have a glass of wine. But, but my hot tub routine, I hit the hot tub at least, 3 times a week, sauna twice a week. I try to stay consistent with those. But again, if it's Friday, I want to enjoy the weekend. I'm playing Apex with a bunch of my friends or my kids, I'll stay up till 1 o'clock in the morning, but I'll sleep until, 9 or 10 o'clock. And I have the flexibility to go and do that. Right. But I'm still hitting those marks of sleep, which is, I think, the most important piece there. Another couple things to consider at night: magnesium is phenomenal. Usually, we're kind of magnesium deficient, but magnesium is one of those things that for me has really helped out. And typically, magnesium glycinate is probably one of the better ones, amino acids for absorption. It definitely has like more of a calming relaxation feature. Those I take. So the recommended dosage is usually like 1 pill of magnesium. I can't remember the dosages offhand, but I take 2, which I'm a bigger guy. I got a lot of muscle.
Fuck your recommendations. Just take double it. More is better.
Double. You can't go wrong with too much magnesium, to be perfectly honest with you. But magnesium glycinate is probably the best for sleeping. And also it helps relax your nervous system, your muscles. And it's really just, an easy supplement to incorporate basically at night. L-theanine. I'm sorry, is it theanine or leucine?
L-theanine.
I think it's
L-theanine.
Yeah, theanine for sleeping. So L-theanine and magnesium for sleeping. Dr. Huberman obviously recommended apinogen as well. I never had.
Pause. Hold on. Well, we haven't talked about that. You and I have talked about it, but we haven't talked about it on the podcast. Has anybody seen the fucking topless photos of Huberman?
Dude, he's jacked.
What the fuck?
Yeah, he's jacked.
I'm going to just say everything that he teaches and praises is right, because the dude is in serious shape. What a guy.
He's like 50 years old.
I don't know what age he is. It doesn't matter to me what age he is. He's in really good shape.
He's in his 40s. Hang on, let me see. Hang on. He's older than me. How old is Andrew Huberman? 48 years old. And the guy looks incredible. I mean, just jacked and looks amazing.
If you're listening right now and you haven't seen the pictures, just Google Andrew Huberman shirtless photo. Like, the dude is insane shape.
Looks great. And, and he's, obviously a neurobiologist out of Stanford, leading folks on the research side of human biology and everything else, and ophthalmology. He, is a big advocate of TRT. He takes TRT, which is great, testosterone replacement therapy, as we age, low testosterone levels. And so, it's been good to see, him coming out as kind of an advocate. It's funny. My doctor yesterday, I sent her the list of all my supplements. And I'm like, before you say anything, I just want to let you know this is like half of what I used to take. And she's like, I bet you watch the Andrew Huberman show, don't you? And I was like, she's like, he's great. He's just like, but if you try to incorporate everything he talks about, you're literally going to have 7,000 supplements. You're going to be cold plunging in the morning, staring at natural light while, and your entire day is gone by the time you finish your ritual.
I know. I actually can't wait to get the cold plunge. And like, obviously December, not the fucking best time to start it, but I am looking forward. And I know that it's not your thing, but just having it outside, like it's almost like a full bath size. It's also made of steel, so it's going to be infinitely colder, I reckon. But I'm looking forward to getting in that. And it's obviously not going to work out time-wise because it's dark, but being able to do that as the sun's coming up, I'm going to be a different human whenever I start to kick that in.
The dopamine effects, especially, on everything on brown fat development, energy production, dopamine levels for a longer extended period of time. I think it's like 4 to 7 hour increase in dopamine levels. whereas normally like workouts are like an hour.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's phenomenal. Like I can't
just
do
not
it.
in.
Like, I'm sorry. Like I hate it.
Just
Like,
me and your buddy DDP. I'm gonna be FaceTiming and be like, yeah,
you
just
and
in the cold
DDP
punch
can hang out all the time, cold punch, and I'll be in the watching you guys like a bunch of crazy fuckers. Pardon
in
the
the
language.
sauna.
but yeah, I can't do it. I hate cold. I hate cold.
Good.
But with Huberman, you know, he also recommended apigenin, which
he recommended it better than you just did.
Well, yeah, there are some good things on that with prostate size control. So as we get older, you know, keeping prostate in check, which is good from like, you know, obviously cancer and things like that. I don't take Apigen, but I do take magnesium and I do take L-theanine at night, and I will take melatonin if I know I kind of need to reset my circadian rhythm or my clock to be bedtime. You know, I'll kind of force the melatonin in about an hour and a half beforehand from a protocol perspective. But every night magnesium, every night L-theanine, just some of the things that I like. There's, you know, root extracts and things like that you can get crazy into. I try to keep it as simple as possible with everything and not go overboard on it, and try not to introduce too many, you know, supplements, especially at night, you know, digestion, stuff like that. You know, there are peptides from a prescription perspective that can help out, like TB500 is really good from a recovery perspective at night. You know, inject TB500 and you'll, you know, basically be, you know, recovering faster from certain areas based on the, you know, branching amino acid instruction sets that TB500 is from a peptide perspective. So there's a lot of cool things you could do to help optimize sleep, but, you know, getting to sleep is the most important piece there for sure.
Yeah, one of the supplements that we haven't spoken about in a while that I really used to really heavily use around sleep is ashwagandha and the benefits of it.
And I take ashwagandha as well. Sorry, I forgot to mention that too. I take ashwagandha right at night as well.
It like in terms of like what it does from a sort of bringing you down to the level of like, you know, rest and digest and set yourself up for sleep, it is definitely one that there's a lot of science behind it, and I have, you know, hands-on experience. I have used it for quite some time. I would sometimes use it as well after a workout to sort of bring myself again down to that rest and digest state so that I can actually eat and consume and then digest food. So there are benefits to that too. Another great supplement. But I think, as you said, you know, yes, we can look at supplements to optimize sleep, but it's not going to fix the problem. You need to do all the basics first before you start looking at the same before you start looking at supplements, because yes, okay, it may help you get over to sleep or stay for sleep for slightly longer, but if you're unable to do that by yourself, then you know that there's a problem that needs to be addressed. The same with anything, and that's where supplements come in to supplement the bits that will make it that little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, ashwagandha, good for stress reduction, cortisol, also helps with mood, you know, ability to relax. I take that at night as well. So I forgot to mention those are the only three I take though. So L-theanine, magnesium, and ash.
Whenever I remember very specifically whenever Huberman did the podcast about sleep and he recommended those three, I ordered them right away and I did use them. But then it was the case of, you know, one ran out at one time and then another ran out at a different time and another ran out at a different time. I'm like, it would be much easier if this all just came in one pack that I could just buy, you know, a month's supply at a time. But again, definitely did see the benefits of it. And as I said earlier on, I am going to focus heavily on how I can optimize my sleep a little bit better, because even from the Aura score, like my sleep score today was 91. The average sleep score for me is anywhere between 55 and 70, which is obviously not optimal. So even in terms of that, I'll obviously not sleep 11 hours a night because I think that's unrealistic. But if I can get my sleep score or efficiency in the 90s for getting, you know, 8 hours or 7 hours sleep, that's going to be more beneficial than getting, you know, 10 hours sleep at 59% efficiency or whatever. So focusing on the quality of your sleep, not just the quantity of your sleep, is important too.
Yep. So sleep, very important. Yes. I did want to hit on one more topic really quick, just because it's coming up a lot and there's a lot more studies coming in. One, I wanted to give an update on my microneedling. If you notice here, it's still a little bit red. I did my second time of microneedling, and disclaimer, I'm going to be talking about needles here for the next couple seconds. Like a couple people are like, you need to put a disclaimer on this because I almost passed out. But I did it again on my head. It seems like it's getting easier each time. And on the side here, and it gets really red for like the first 2 days and then it kind of winds down. But I did notice towards the end of the week, last week, just by doing one of those, that the redness and the blotch there was almost completely gone just by one treatment for skin. So I did 0.5 millimeter depth on the skin. You don't need much on that on the face. And then I use hydrochloric acid as well as vitamin C, just some cream to put on there once a day to heal it faster. And then I use the microneedling on the top of my hair, and I did take a before and after. I'm not expecting to see results within a week there, but
this is bullshit. It's been a week.
Yeah. But I definitely I'm very, you can still see, I have obviously thinning up here on the top of my hair, but it's not terrible. But I'm hoping to see a little bit more depth in that, so I'll report back. But I did 1.5 millimeters. I did 1 the first week, and then I did 1.5 this week. Didn't notice any difference in pain or anything else, so it seemed to work out pretty good. So that's been a good experiment so far. The second one that I'm seeing a lot of press coming out with now is a lot of studies coming out on rapamycin, which I have been taking now for about 2 years, prescribed from my doctor. And rapamycin, so there's only 3 things that have ever been shown to increase lifespan. Okay. One is caloric restriction. So, not being obese, not, being, overly overweight, and having a caloric restricted diet that, allows you to maintain weight and your body to recycle bad things and stuff like that, and to get rid of DNA damage and stuff like that. So caloric restriction, there was a great mouse study that they did, that they took 2 mice from the wild, two families of mice from the wild. One of them, they had a caloric restricted diet. The second one, they gave them as much food as possible. The ones that obviously were on a caloric restriction had longer lifespan, as well as a healthier outlook in life. Whereas the ones that had access to unlimited food, obese, et cetera, same thing that applies to humans. And I did get asked why do we always test on mice? And interesting enough, genetically, mice are very close to us in almost every regard, as far as organs, how our bodies work. So a lot of times, if you do research in mice, it does directly correlate over to humans. One of the other benefits was they have a short lifespan, so they can test things much quicker versus 10 years, 100 years of long clinical trials to look at long-term data. Now, here's the thing: it doesn't always correlate. It doesn't always mean if it's discovered in mice, it's going to work in humans. But biologically, they're very similar in nature and how they do their testing. And so one of those is caloric restriction. The second is exercise. So exercise directly increases longevity and your ability to live longer. And that's a combination of cardiovascular health, bone density, muscle mass. And then the third is actually a molecule called rapamycin that is a prescription. It was originally used for organ transplants and making sure that the immune system didn't attack the organs as it went along. And what they found through studies is that rapamycin has some serious early results and bigger results in longevity, increasing lifespan. And in mice studies, it was like 62% in males and like 30% in women increased lifespan, which is freaking insane if you think about that, right? That's obviously mice, but they've been using this drug for years and years and years, and it's dosed differently because you don't want to dose it like you're having a transplant and you have the negative side effects of it. So typically it's around 5 to 6 milligrams once a week. So you take, and the brand name for it, Sirmolis, is kind of like the normal what you get. It's not rapamycin, but Sirmolis is the brand of that, and it's basically 5 to 6 milligrams. So 2 pills once a week. I take mine on Saturdays, and it's a lot of great studies showing some major results on this. And they just finished up a randomized double-blind placebo clinical trial and rapamycin in the ability to combat amyotrophic lateral sclerosis, and definitely seem to have some positive results in that one as well. So again, we're seeing rapamycin as being literally the only longevity drug that's out there, little longevity molecule that's out there in the market. So those 3 things right now seem to be kind of the biggest areas. Now, a couple other ones that are leading right now in longevity and impact from a supplementation perspective is NR, NNM / NAD. So what ends up happening with NR is NR converts into NNM, NNM converts into NAD, and you can take any of those 3 precursors or those 2 precursors to convert to NAD. NAD is essentially the what is used to create ATP in our bodies, the energy that we use to create in our bodies. And as we get older, we drop levels of NAD, and we're not able to maintain energy levels like we could. And what they found in a lot of early studies, again, a lot of studies that needs to be done, but supplementation of NAD increases your energy levels, your overall health and fitness, but also how long you live, at least again in initial studies. So that's another good supplementation. I take NNM from a supplementation perspective every day in the mornings. And then I also do an NAD injection once a week to keep NAD levels high in my body for what I'm doing there. And then the last one that's fairly decent, well, it's very controversial, I should say, is metformin. Metformin, a type 2 diabetes drug. And there was a study that came out that showed that people with type 2 diabetes, it was a huge one. It was like 60,000 participants. There was essentially like three groups, but the two groups to focus on was one taking metformin that had type 2 diabetes and those not taking metformin and did not have type 2 diabetes. Okay. So regular humans, well, in the study, people taking metformin that had type 2 diabetes lived on average longer than those that did not have type 2 diabetes that did not take metformin. And so like everybody's like, holy shit, like what's going on here? Like, can you live longer taking metformin? So everybody started going to metformin that didn't have type 2 diabetes. Well, now they started doing more studies on this. And what they're realizing is that if you don't have type 2 diabetes and you're taking metformin, one, it has a big impact on muscle hypertrophy, meaning you don't grow as much muscle because it actually stunts that ability, the mTOR processing for muscle growth. So it actually has a negative impedance on muscle. And those that are doing exercise, it negates the effects of exercise. So if you're exercising, and using metformin, it actually reduces and blunts the benefits of that exercise. So if you're a healthy individual and you don't have type 2 diabetes, metformin is not a good idea. And what they're seeing with their studies is that you don't live any longer taking metformin without type 2 diabetes. So maybe you should get type 2 diabetes first, then take metformin, then you can live longer.
Not recommending anybody to get type 2 diabetes.
But it's looking to be that you probably shouldn't take unless you have type 2 diabetes. Like if you have type 2 diabetes, metformin is like the staple drug to help regulate insulin levels and everything else that goes along with that. It's a phenomenal drug. It's the only one in its class, by the way, for what it does. But it's definitely something that if you're, I had taken metformin for the longest time. And I stopped taking it just because of those specific new studies that are coming out. Dr. Rhonda Patrick has a lot of great recaps of that study that I've been listening to. They just did one with Dr. Peter Attia on The Drive, another really good study that goes through the kind of the metformin benefits and not. At first, he was like all on board of it. Now, very much a skeptic based on the latest data that comes out there. So you got to be kind of careful with these drugs, because there's not a lot of long-term data studies that happen with these. And so for me, no metformin anymore, very controversial. I obviously don't want to impede muscle growth at the same time. I'm also exercising and I don't want to negate my effects of exercising on my body. I mean, the reason I'm exercising is to live healthy and do everything else. If I'm cutting that by 50%, well, what's the use of that, right? There's no reason for that based on what we're seeing from a study perspective. So, just a quick update on those that I wanted to get through on the longevity stuff. If you're, looking to live longer, caloric restriction and resistance training / exercise, and obviously sleep is a component of that. Those are going to keep you living longer. And then obviously from a supplementation perspective that we know of right now, rapamycin / sirolimus happens to be probably the number one that has the most promise for those living longer.
I think that, that in itself about the metformin is why you need to sort of stay as up to date in terms of research and stuff like that, because you could read that one study. I think this is the problem in itself. People read one study and think this is the worst thing ever, or this is the best thing ever, or this is going to, add 20 years to my life. And it's like, you don't actually take into consideration other studies or at least updated studies or updated versions of them. So that's why we like to give the advice on it.
And it's a shit show when it comes to these research papers too, because the problem is what people don't understand, even like in double-blind controlled placebo studies, like you're not looking at long-term impact too is a big thing, right? So, what does it look like over 10 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, 50 years? And there's a study that came out, I think it was in like 2013 or 2014, that correlated testosterone replacement to a higher increased rate of prostate cancer, okay? And when you started to break down the data and you started going back, it was actually faulty data, but all doctors read at that time was testosterone increases your chances of prostate cancer. So testosterone got bastardized in the industry, right? Now there's all these long-term studies in showing testosterone replacement actually decreases your chances of cancer, increases your cardiovascular health, increases your muscle mass and bone density, thus also increasing your longevity and lifespan, and also, by the way, how you feel. So, testosterone happens to be one of the biggest areas of study right now when it comes to men's health. And same thing for estrogen and progesterone when you're going through premenopause and postmenopause, has some substantial longevity impact. One, comfort of life and quality of life during menopause, but also your ability to live longer because you're maintaining normal hormonal levels as you go along. And, I've talked about how I'm co-owner of Illinois Alternative Medicine. And it's been really awesome to see the changes in people that had no idea that they were low on testosterone. So if you're interested, by the way, iamhrt.com. It's literally, you sign up, you get blood work. It is only in the US. Get blood work scheduled in your local area. You have a free consultation with a doctor and see what's going on. And they can interpret your blood work, and we work on making you live longer. I'm a patient of IAM. So, it's a great place. And Emil, who runs IAM every single day, is an amazing individual. We'll get him on the podcast here soon. But, what I'm seeing with a lot of folks out there is like, dude, Dave, and I just got one today this morning. And he was like, Dave, when I got tested, I was at 193, which was below me, by the way, which is insane. Like, you're literally a 75-year-old male at that point, right? Like, your testosterone levels are that of an elderly person. And he's like, Dave, I just got my testosterone results back and I'm at 1,200. Now, everybody's gonna be like, whoa, 1,200, that's insane. When you're trying to figure out your levels, some people handle testosterone differently. And the ability to convert testosterone is different for each person. So 200 milligrams, per week is kind of like the average dosage that people see. And that person was at 190 and went all the way to 1,200 based on 200. Whereas me, I take 200, I'm at 700, right? So, the levels take a little bit of time to balance. So 1,200 isn't bad, especially not, long-term, but, just balancing your levels is really important. But he's like, dude, I have the most energy I've ever had, my drive, my passion, my ability to go to the gym. Like, everything has completely changed for me because I started going on this. And, it sucks because you get people all the time that are like, oh, well, you're on TRT, you're gonna die of cancer. Well, no, that's not true. Like, you saw an old study from 2013 or 2012 that has been since discredited like 300,000 times. There's 50 other long-term studies and papers, and all the doctors in the medical field that are up to speed on this show you that's not. But your PCP hasn't read any of those or isn't up to speed. So he's just like, yeah, you're gonna die of cancer if you go on TRT. It sucks. But you have to keep involved on this and understand the studies and understand what's actually going on, and try to make the best of it. Right? It's an evolving field. And when you have long-term studies that are controlled, and as much as they possibly can, humans are very hard to do control studies over. Those are the best types of results you can see, and it just takes some time to get there.
Yeah, and again, it's in everybody's different thing. Do you know what I mean? It's like, you and I, for example, if we started at the same level of testosterone, took the same amount, we could get wildly different results. And it is just a case of finding out and adjusting as you go. And it's accepting that is part of the process. But it definitely, again, would recommend anybody getting some level of blood work done. I actually have you see it sat there. It came in the other day for me to get my updated blood work done. Because again, even for you with the iron deficiency, like, you wouldn't have known that if you didn't have your blood work done. So sort of seeing real world in terms of what your blood's doing, it's the thing that actually that's a good book. I mean, it's a bit sciencey, but you might look at Your Blood Doesn't Lie, I think it's called. As actually being able to look at blood work and blood panels and understanding what they mean as well. So yes, that's a note for everybody to get the blood work done.
Yep. And hopefully you didn't hear any beeping in the background. I have construction going on across the street. So we have contract vehicles and things like that. So hopefully it didn't come through in the podcast. But
I didn't hear any, so we're good.
Good. All right. And any humming sounds or anything like that, or does it sound crystal clear?
No, sounds good to me. Sounds clear to me.
Okay. Good.
Just you can hear it. Nobody would have even known if you hadn't a sip.
All right. Well, hey, everybody. Appreciate listening to this week's podcast. I'm glad Ben is finally back from his long ass hiatus. If like 6 months gone, checked out, so good to see you. Have you back, man.
It's good to be back. I'll not leave again.
And you're undercut. And by the way, we didn't discuss that I'm extending my bulk, by the way, which is crazy.
Tune in next week. They'll be giving it all away. Tune in next week for that one.
We'll tune in next week and talk about how I'm extending my bulk and how I'm feeling the best I ever have and why I want to keep going with it. So tune in next week, everybody. Same time, same place. Appreciate you all. And obviously share with your friends, family, loved ones if you like what we're doing. And we'll chat with you again next week. Later on.
See you next week.